What has your skin been trying to say? Have you ever noticed your body reacting right when you stay quiet, stay polite, or stay composed? Maybe through itching or hives or skin that just won't heal? And wondered if your own skin is carrying more than just your own story? Listen in. Welcome back, beautiful soul. This is Marci with Natural Healing at your fingertips. I invite you into our quieter space, the in-between breath of episode 36, where we step behind the story and let the body speak for itself. You know, the longer I walk this path, the more I understand that the skin is not just skin. It's our sacred edge, the boundary where we end and the world begins, the place where internal truth meets external reality. And for some of us, especially the ones who learn to be quiet, to be small, to be composed, the skin becomes the only place left where the truth can erupt. The skin is the first boundary, and it's also the final truth. I've always felt like my skin knew things before I did. It held stories I didn't have language for. It released emotions I was too afraid to touch. And when these little red moles, called cherry angiomas, started showing up on my abdomen during menopause, they felt like little tiny red exclamation marks. Like my body was saying, here's where the truth is rising. At that time, I remember noticing them and immediately blaming the menopausal heat, those never-ending hot flashes that rolled through me like waves that never fully crashed. And I told myself, it's probably just the heat, my body trying to cool off, right? Because it looked like little punctate dots of blood under my skin. But even then, something in me knew it wasn't only that. The timing felt too precise, and the placement felt too specific. The sensation felt too familiar, like emotion rising through the skin, disguised as temperature. And those little red marks showed up exactly where I'd held so much for so long, right across my abdomen, the place that always tightens first when something in me is trying to speak. It was easy to say, oh, it's just the hot flashes. But my body was whispering something truer. This isn't just heat. This is what your silence has been holding. The one near my heart felt different, softer, more tender, as if an old layer of emotion I'd been carrying in silence finally found a way out. Almost like grief exhaling through my pores. And then there was one right near my temple on my face. That single, flat red dot. Right when I was stepping into a new phase of leadership. It felt like my body was marking the moment I stopped hiding. And it's funny, even with all of this, I still find myself in awe of how the tiniest marks on the skin can hold the sweetest stories. Like the freckles you sometimes see on babies, right near their necks or their ears. I've always loved those. I had heard someone say, that's where the angels whisper and kiss them while they're sleeping. And something about that just stayed with me. Maybe because it reminds me that not every mark on the skin is a wound. Some are blessings that we carried into this world. You know, we're told from the time we're little that we carry our family's features. You have your great-grandmother's cheeks. You have your mother's skin. You have your aunt's freckles. You have your father's brow. It wrinkles the same way his did. We grow up hearing these things as if they're just genetics. As if the only thing passed down through the body is appearance. But I'm going to tell you when features become soul memories. Because lately, I've been wondering, What if these aren't just features? What if they're soul memories? What if they're things we see on the surface? The freckles, the moles, the birthmarks, the redness, the sensitivity, the way the skin reacts when emotions rise. What if they are actually the untold stories our lineage never got to speak? What if the marks we carry aren't flaws, but reminders? What if the skin is the place where their silence becomes color, their grief in your veins becomes texture, their longing becomes heat, their love becomes freckles, their fear becomes eruptions, their truth becomes ours? What if the similarities we see in the mirror are not just inherited traits, but unfinished chapters waiting for us to release them? Sometimes I think the skin is the final storyteller of the bloodline, that what rises through us are the places their words never reached. Their tears becoming our eczema, their swallowed anger becoming our rashes, their unspoken desires becoming our sensitivity, their heartbreak becoming the mole near our heart, their protection becoming the freckle behind our ear, and their love, their sweet, aching, ancestral love, becoming every place the skin still glows. Maybe the body doesn't just remember our story, maybe it remembers theirs too. And maybe what rises through our skin isn't just ours to heal, maybe it's ours to set free. But nothing spoke louder to me than what happened during my divorce, when the lungs and the skin whisper the same story. I'll never forget the phantom itching I had at lung 5, the voice point on both of my arms just above the elbow crease. No rash, no dryness, nothing visible. Just that unmistakable itch beneath the surface, like something was trying to get out. And at a time I kept thinking, why here? Why now? But now I understand. There's a point I call the voice gate. Sometimes I experience it as the breath of truth, where what's being held finally finds its way out. And it's where the voice gets stuck when you've swallowed too much truth. It's where silence collects when you've been holding your breath for years. And it's where the skin tries to speak when the lungs are too heavy to move the grief on their own. The itching wasn't a skin issue. It wasn't physical irritation, though I scratched myself like it was. It was my body detoxing everything I refused to say. The lungs were clearing what my voice was too tired to speak. And the skin, the boundary keeper, was the one that finally said, enough. Sometimes I wonder if what rose through my skin wasn't even mine. When your skin carries what your ancestors couldn't say. If the cheery angiomas, the itching, the redness, the pressure, were actually the sound of my ancestors finding a way out. Because my lineage, like so many, carried silence as survival, held their tongues to keep the peace, swallowed their feelings to keep the family together. Breathe shallow because deep breaths required safety that they didn't have. Maybe what erupted through me was their unspoken truth, their grief, their heat, their no more. Maybe my skin became the doorway they never had. Maybe the redness wasn't a symptom. Maybe it was a release. And honestly, it feels right. It feels true. Because when that itch under my skin finally stopped, it was the same moment I stopped betraying myself with silence. Your skin tells the truth before you do. I've learned to listen now, and when my skin flushes, I pay attention. When something surfaces, I ask, what it's trying to say. And when a new mark appears, I don't shame it. I greet it like a messenger. The skin tells the truth early. The lungs tell the truth quietly. And the voice tells the truth last. But the truth always comes. Sometimes as heat, sometimes as color, sometimes as an itch that feels like an emotion trying to climb out of your body. And sometimes as a tiny red dot marking the exact moment you stepped into your next self. Our bodies never betray us. They just stop letting us betray ourselves. And here's what comes next. Your somatic release practice. At the end of this bonus episode, I'll share how to access the guided somatic healing ritual for releasing anger stored in the skin, emotional boundaries held in the body, and inherited tension carried through the fascia. The soul tears ritual, cooling the fire beneath the skin. This practice helps your nervous system unwind body memory so that what was once held beneath the skin can finally soften and release. It's a separate episode devoted entirely to release, softness, and ancestral unwinding. This practice is the companion to episode 36 of the Soul Contract of Healing miniseries, Skin Symptoms and Sacred Boundaries, What Your Body is Saying. In this episode, we explored how the skin becomes a storyteller, how hives and eczema and hot rashes are not weaknesses or random flare-ups, but your body's sacred language revealing what can no longer stay held inside. Make time for yourself. Create space to listen to what your body is revealing. Heal yourself with presence and compassion for you and for your lineage. When you listen to your skin, you do begin to hear the stories that were never given words. And when you share this work, you help another soul recognize that their symptoms are not random. They are messages asking for release. This is how we create the quantum shift. One body, one boundary, one soul truth at a time. Healing is definitely the new rebellion. Thank you for being here with me. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on this journey into your soul contract of healing. Remember, you are your own medicine. With each ritual, you release what was never yours to carry and awaken the luminous healer within. Until next time, honor your path, trust your light, and keep choosing your freedom.